Welcome back. So the weather's been pretty much junk for the second half of this week. It's been cold first and then rainy, so I haven't had a chance to even get the aircraft or get the engine running. But I did find out why I was having trouble starting it, and that was the glow plugs were all fried. So I think finally once I got the ECU sorted out, I had probably set the preheat time to be too long, and I think I had it to 20 seconds. And so ultimately, they all got fried. None of them had any resistance, and obviously no resistance, not putting out any heat. So anyway, just sort of pointing here to where they are. They're all in a difficult spot to get to, but with the different socket extensions that I had and the flexible ones that I bought, I was able to get each of them out and get the new ones put in without disassembling anything else. So that was kind of nice. And yeah, there's 3 more down in there. And you can't even see where they are. They just sort of go into the top of the head there. So yeah, once I had each one of those out, I just tested them again. So with the multimeter here, if you want to test the glow plug to see if it's working or not, you just set your multimeter up there to test resistance. So when it's 0, it's making a complete circuit. And then you can put it on the glow plug there. So one on the tip at the end, and then the other one on the base of it, which is the ground. And if you get a reading across there, it means there's resistance, and they will actually work when you put power to them. As you can see there's no resistance whatsoever there. So that's one of the old ones, and it's totally fried. And just as a comparison, this is one of the new ones that I got, and there you can see it makes a circuit. So I still haven't had a chance to test them because the weather's been junk, but I did get them all replaced without too many problems. And that's what the old ones look like. And then that funky one there has a kind of a sensor on the end of it there. Unfortunately, the new one didn't have that, but I'm not using that either, so that doesn't really matter. And to prevent frying the next set, I've already set the settings here to be very conservative. So this is in the ECU, and if you actually look here, this is the state thing. There's some information here in a flowchart how it all works, and if you guys are interested in reading all that, you can just pause the video here and look through how that logic all works. But anyway, I've got it all working now. I've got my parameters set correctly, that it does go through the logic correctly the way it's supposed to, and I've got my parameters dialed back fairly conservatively initially, and then I'll just have to sort of dial them up a little bit more if it becomes difficult to start. So the preheat you see there, I've got that set. You can set that based upon the coolant temperature. I've got that to 5 seconds right now if the coolant temperature is below 100. That's Fahrenheit. And then the crank heat, so while you're cranking after the preheat, it'll have another 3 seconds maximum, and then post heat, once it actually fires, it'll run for another second. So that's I'm going to start with that, and I think that's not going to burn them out at all. And also you can see I put a little indicator light over here, so when the glow plugs are on, you'll see that. But generally you won't see that very much, because the preheat comes on ahead of time before you even connect it to the ECU. So the other thing I wanted to do while the weather was junk was this guy here, where the pulley slides onto the prop shaft here. You can see the spline drive there. So those two surfaces aren't totally flush. They should have been, but we're off by like a couple of thou. And so what ends up happening, the locking nut that goes in there, that threads in there, has been pushing tight on the shaft, but not on the actual pulley. And so there's been this tiniest little bit of play on the pulley. So the solution to this was take the nut here, and you can see you've got it up at Britt's here on the lathe. And Britt's doing some of his finest work in just basically taking a little bit of the material on the inside there and just taking about 30 thou off there. And I just said 30 thou's plenty. It really wouldn't make a difference if it was 10 thou, but anyway, just basically took it off on the inside there and allowed the outside sort of 1/4 inch to be the same thickness that it originally was. So when that nut goes on there, it'll push up against just the pulley itself and not against the end of the prop shaft. So that'll tighten up that whole thing. So the tiny little bit of play that was in that the pulley onto the shaft spline fitting there, that'll be gone. And as you can see in here, it's a little bit difficult, but I've got it put in there, and also just put the safety wire on there to hold it so that nut can't get undone. Anyway, so junk weather, but over the weekend it's supposed to be nice and back in the high 50s, so hopefully I'll get the aircraft out. And then on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, that runway is actually shut down. They're putting new markings on the runway, so I won't be able to take the aircraft out on the runway at all on those days. So got to try and make the most of this weekend, and then other than that it'll be next Thursday when I can get out again. So sorry for the short update, but it is what it is. Thanks again for tuning in, and catch up again on Tuesday and see what I have for you.